Okay, we're here at the Civilian Conservation Corps camp, and this is the setup. We have WA1QHQ Mark assisting, and let me show you the setup if I can get out of my own shadow. Of course, every airplane in the county decided to go over at the same time. If you want to take a look at the antenna, straight up. We have the offset feed Hertz antenna. That's the first thing we should probably go over is the antenna. The offset fed Hertz is basically a half wave of wire at about the 45 to 50 foot level. It's offset from the middle with a single wire coming straight down to the transmitter. And then there's a counterpoise which goes underneath the antenna, directly under it, about 30 feet below it. The counterpoise is about 7 or 8 feet off the ground. That's acting as the ground for this system. There's no earth ground. This is a flying Zeppelin. Think of it like that. The transmitter, basically the transmitter is a 2-tube Jones push-pull oscillator using a pair of type 30 triodes, directly heated filaments. It puts out 3 or 4 watts. I'm using the Lafayette meter to tell that I'm actually putting fire in the wire, RF. Beside it is an actual period regenerative receiver. This was built in the 30s. It's a homebrew regenerative receiver. It has plug-in coils that you see are on the side of the unit. This came with a variety of small plug-in coils built on tube bases. The tube bases were set up to handle segments of the band. In other words, there's an 80 meter low, 80 meter high, a 40 meter, and a 160 meter coil. The Baldwin phones, these are also genuine. These are from a 1920 station from Lynn, Massachusetts. And we have a World War II J38 key, which was designed in the 30s for training soldiers. I'm going to be crystal controlled. It looks like I have a 7053 crystal that's running about 7054. So that's going to be the initial activation frequency. Over to the left, I have the stuff that allows us to hear the regenerative receiver, and it's a modern amplifier. I also have a spot oscillator. You put the crystal in the spot oscillator, turn it on, and now you can find yourself on the regenerative dial. As you know, when you transmit and a regen receiver is close by, you overload the regen and you can't really find your frequency. This allows you to get the regen on frequency. There's also a station monitor keyer. Basically, this picks up the RF of the signal and makes a beep tone. This seems to have failed, so we won't be hearing any beeps when I transmit. I'm going to be transmitting purely by instinct and clicks. No side tone on this. Of course, Grandpa might not have had a side tone either. So that's basically the rundown. Again, we're at a vintage CCC camp. This is a building that was once here that fell in and they had to take it down, but the other buildings are intact. This whole field was full of buildings. This is another bunkhouse over here. There's a blacksmith shop over there, and there probably were 10 different buildings here, and there's probably 5 left here at the park. That little house there that's red, that was also part of the CCC camp. We had more than 20 camps here in New Hampshire, and a lot of work was done in this state alone. And again, the CCC was for guys between 18 and 29. It helped people to get through the Depression.
So my first activation, and activation with my 1930s station, would be at Bear Brook State Park, located in the heart of New Hampshire, home to one of the only Civilian Conservation Corps camps left standing in the United States. Also known as the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps was created by Franklin Roosevelt in response to the Great Depression's effect on the American economy. Created in 1933, the CCC employed American men between the ages of 18 and 29 to help rebuild America's natural environments. They would receive $30 per month, with $25 of that sent back to their families. While rebuilding America's natural spaces, they also gained skills for future employment, took classes, and received housing, food, and medical care. Many of these men would serve in World War II. The United States Forest Service purchased the lands that make up much of Bear Brook State Park in 1935 as part of a jobs plan for acquiring and adapting lands of marginal agricultural value for recreational purposes. The 1123rd Company of the CCC was established in those lands in 1935 to undertake the process of building out infrastructure for recreation. The crew was housed in a camp that included 13 structures, and these were built out of relatively inexpensive materials in a rapid period of time to standardized designs developed by the United States Army. The buildings were framed in southern pine with walls and roofs of pine wallboard covered in tar paper. They were built without foundations, the sills set directly on the ground as they were intended to be temporary structures. The CCC at Bear Brook helped construct many of the park's famous landmarks. Walking around Bear Brook State Park today, you can see many remnants of the CCC's hard work. They built popular areas like the Bear Hill Pond Camp, where you can now rent newly restored cabins. The bathhouse at Catamount Pond. They even built Spruce Pond Camp, which the Student Conservation Association now calls its home. One of the buildings now houses a small museum devoted to the local CCC history around New Hampshire. The CCC camp at Bear Brook State Park is one of the few relatively intact camps in the entire nation. Buildings were given a more durable exterior. Now they're generally made of asphalt shingle roofing and wooden shingle siding. The interiors of the buildings were altered for new uses after World War II. Of the roughly 15 buildings erected in the camp, 8 survive, as do many of the trees planted in the campground, which have now matured and provide shade to the area. The camp is the only one to survive in any significant form in the state out of the 26 built here in New Hampshire. And it's one of the small number in the nation to retain as many buildings as it has. The camp at Bear Brook operated from 1935 until 1942, when the CCC program was terminated. The camp complex was adapted for use as a maintenance and residence facility for the Bear Brook Park staff. Christy, who runs the park staff at Bear Brook, gave me full access to the museum and the POTA site.
Okay, this is the inside of an authentic building used by the Civilian Conservation Corps from the mid-30s through the late 30s. And of course, with the outbreak of World War II, suddenly this wasn't required anymore, but this particular building is the museum. And there's a lot of artifacts here, periodicals about the camp. People have brought in a lot of artifacts. And we have some of the tools that the CCC guys used. Extensive work here in New Hampshire, building all kinds of reservoirs and waterworks, road building, taking care of larger projects that towns had. And they were keeping those 18 to 25-year-old young men busy. They received $30 total per month, 25 of which would go to their families, and $5 would be for the men beside their room and board, which was, of course, provided by the camp. And $5 was a lot of money. I'm sure a lot of it was spent in the local tavern close by, but I just wanted to give you guys a peek in one of the buildings, and there's many buildings here. This is one of the most intact CCC camps in the United States.
So let's talk about the equipment. The 40-meter POTA transmitter is a do-it-yourself mid-1930s classic, the Frank Jones push-pull oscillator transmitter. It's crystal controlled. It does about 1 watt on 90 volts and almost 4 watts on 200 volts. In this case, the 200 volts is internal battery power. No external batteries here, kids. Just connect the antenna, plug in a key, and switch this baby on. You're on the air, True portability. The transmitter uses a pair of 230 directly heated triodes, and it features an internal antenna tuner. Again, true portability. But remember, you're on a crystal, so there's no easy QSY. The antenna is another 1930s classic. The original form, the single-wire Wyndham antenna, which we now call the off-center fed Hertz, or OCFH antenna. This is outfitted with a counterpoise, so no ground is needed. Look, Ma, I'm flying POTA. I'm not even touching the ground. The receiver is also homemade, but 100% original. It's a solid copper sheet construction receiver, and it also uses that low current drain 230 triode, two of them, one for the detector and one for the audio amplifier. And yes, it's internally battery powered, no external batteries. Yes, a receiver built by a mid-1930s ham. It's hot, it's sensitive, maybe too hot, as you will hear.
Hey, antenna erection time. So it looks like we got up that tree quite a ways, coming across to this big pine tree. I'm going to say that's 40 or 50 feet on this side. Yeah, that's pretty straight. So we're 40 or 50 feet with the Wyndham off-center fed Hertz. Next we have to run the counterpoise underneath it. Sounds sweet. RST 579.
Is that received or sent? RST.
RST, his 599, mine's 579. Good luck, Mike. Watching your YouTube video. 73. Good luck. Who says a regen doesn't work? There is a weak station in there, but I can't get him. Yeah, I gave him 599.
He's the sending station, you're the receiving station.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, KN4RRQ. KN4RRQ.
Virginia.
.539. Oh man, I heard Tom. problem with Tom. I could hear him a little bit. Nah, can't call that a cue. QLO.
New Jersey. Got it.
Yeah, New Jersey.
What's he hearing you at?
He's 599, I'm 549.
Okay.
Okay. You're 3 watts. Sound. Great. Here, 73. Well, that's a nice signal coming up. I think he's in Virginia, right?
Yeah.